Brother made my life hell, then got my wife pregnant. I hadn't spoken to my brother in almost a year when his name lit up on my phone. Zane Carter. That name used to mean something. Used to bring back memories of our wild childhood summers, bike races down Ridge Hill Road, camping in the backyard, stealing dad's cigars and pretending we were men. Now, it made my skin crawl. The call came on a Thursday. I was at my desk, sorting through end-of-quarter reports, half listening to a podcast about productivity and resilience. Funny how life sends you mixed messages like that. I stared at the screen, my thumb hovering over decline. But I didn't press it. Instead, I swiped to answer, mostly out of morbid curiosity. Hello? There was a pause on the other end, just the faint sound of wind or traffic or maybe both. Then his voice, softer than I remembered. Hey, Noah. I didn't reply. I wouldn't be calling if it wasn't important. I waited. There's a specific kind of silence that only exists between people who used to love each other and now don't know how to fill the gap. He filled it. I need your help. It's about Jude. I froze. Jude. A name I hadn't said out loud in months. I leaned back in my chair, suddenly feeling very far away from my office, my files, my neatly organized life. What about him? I asked, careful not to let my voice shake. He's having trouble sleeping. Wakes up crying at night. Asking for you. I didn't respond. I was already gripping the edge of my desk so hard my knuckles were turning white. Zane kept talking. Elena's been working nights. I got let go from the auto shop last month, and with the bills piling up, I can't do this on my own, man. I thought maybe you could help. Just for a little while. Maybe spend some time with him. I let out a quiet laugh, sharp and cold. You want me to come play dad again? Zane was quiet. Then, quietly, you were good at it. I stood up, walked over to the window. My office overlooked the city, glass towers and busy streets, people with places to be. I used to love this view. Now it just felt like a place to hide. Zane, I said, slowly, you do remember why we stopped speaking, right? He didn't answer. You remember what you did? Another pause. Then, I do. I was messed up. I still am, maybe. But Jude's just a kid. He didn't ask for any of this. That's the part that got me. He was right. Jude didn't ask for this. He didn't ask to be born into betrayal. He didn't ask to become the child-shaped scar on my heart. But Zane had made his choices. Elena had made hers. And I had made mine too. I cleared my throat. I'm not the solution to your problems. Noah, please. I cut him off. Don't call me again. Then I ended the call. My hand hovered over the phone for a few seconds after, as if expecting it to ring again. It didn't. I stared out the window a while longer. Down on the street, people kept moving, cars passed, lights changed. No one looked up. Life went on. But for the first time in months, I couldn't pretend mine had. I didn't sleep that night. It wasn't just the phone call, it was everything that came with it. The memories I'd buried so carefully, the routines I'd built like scaffolding just to stay standing. All of it cracked. By 3 a.m., I was sitting in the kitchen in an old hoodie, drinking coffee I didn't need, staring at the fridge like it had answers. There was a crayon drawing still stuck to the door. A spaceship, crooked and colorful, with a stick figure man floating nearby, and a label in messy handwriting that read, "Me and Uncle Noah in space." I'd meant to take it down months ago. I couldn't bring myself to. It's a strange thing mourning a child that's still alive. A child that you used to tuck in at night, whose forehead you kissed, who called you Uncle Noah like it meant something sacred. I never asked for that role. I never thought I needed it. But once Jude was in my life, it was like a switch flipped. He wasn't just Zane and Elena's kid. He was something else. Something mine. I was there when he took his first steps. I was the one who brought him his first set of building blocks. Who stayed up helping him glue foam wings to cardboard planes. I still remembered the sound of his tiny footsteps padding across my hardwood floors on Sunday mornings. He used to call me his bonus dad. And for a while, I let him. I think that's what hurts the most. I stepped up. I gave everything. And then the truth came crashing down like a piano from the sky. Zane and I were close once. Not just brothers who got along, but close. He was my best friend growing up. The kid I defended in schoolyard fights, the one who convinced me to apply to the same college as him. We used to joke that we'd grow old living next door to each other, coaching each other's kids' soccer teams. And Elena? She was the one person I thought would never hurt me. I met her during my last year of college. She worked part-time at a bookstore downtown. I went in looking for a copy of The Road and left with her number written inside the front cover. Our first date was coffee and thunderstorms, and I swear I knew I'd marry her by the end of it. For a while, everything made sense. The job, the ring, the apartment we painted together, badly. We weren't perfect, but we were solid. Until we weren't. It started small, missed texts, odd excuses, a coldness I couldn't name. I assumed it was burnout, stress. I didn't ask enough questions. Zane had lost his apartment around the same time. A bad breakup, some poor money choices. I offered the spare room. Of course I did. He was my brother. He moved in on a Friday. By the following January, my life was ash and ruin. It was a Tuesday when I found out. A gray, rainy morning. I remember that part because I was wearing the coat Elena had bought me the Christmas before. I found the emails on her laptop. I wasn't snooping, not really. I had been trying to find a photo for our anniversary slideshow. The subject line read, "Last night, can't stop thinking about you." The sender was Zane. I read 5 of them before I started shaking. I read 10 before I started screaming. I remember confronting her first. She didn't deny it. In fact, she barely reacted. It was like she'd already played the conversation out in her head 1,000 times. "It just happened," she said. "It's been happening," I corrected. She didn't cry. She didn't beg. She just stood there like she was waiting for me to implode. Then I asked the question I didn't even know was brewing. "Is Jude?" She didn't answer right away. She didn't have to. The next few days blurred. I packed a bag. I slept in my car. I stared at the ceiling of cheap motels and tried to figure out how much of my life had been a lie. When I finally confronted Zane, he didn't deny it either. He cried. He cursed himself. He told me he was drunk, that it meant nothing, that it happened once, then twice, then again. He said he loved me, that it wasn't about Elena, that he didn't know what he was doing. "You're my brother," he whispered. I walked away. That was almost 11 months ago. And now he was calling me, asking for help, using Jude as a lifeline to drag himself out of the wreckage. It was a cruel irony, really. I lost my wife, my brother, and the child I had grown to love like a son, all in one blow. And now, the one thing I still missed, still ached for Jude, was the one thing being used to pull me back in. I got up and walked back into the living room, sat on the floor, legs crossed like a kid. I reached for the photo album under the coffee table. I hadn't opened it in months. The first page was a picture of Jude at 3, sitting on my shoulders, both of us grinning like idiots at the zoo. The second was him asleep on my chest, drooling on my work shirt. The third, his first day of preschool, holding my hand, smiling with no front teeth. I shut the album, and for the first time in a long time, I let myself cry. 3 weeks passed before I heard from Zane again. I thought he'd gotten the message. I had made it clear, we were done. Whatever history we had, whatever fragments of brotherhood still flickered between us, they were ash now. But broken men don't give up that easily, not when they still think you might be their last hope. This time, the message came through my mother. I was at my father's house, helping him reorganize the garage. The old man had finally decided to part with 3 decades worth of rusted tools and broken lawn chairs. It felt good, doing something physical, sorting through junk, tossing the past into trash bins. Therapeutic in a way. We were mid-conversation about a leaky hose clamp when my mom appeared in the doorway with a tray of lemonade and a tight smile on her face. "Noah," she said cautiously, "do you have a minute?" I should have known. She never used that voice unless she was about to say something she knew I wouldn't like. I followed her to the back porch, where she sat in the same wicker chair she'd claimed every summer since I was 10. She stared out over the yard like the words might fall from the sky. "It's about Zane," she said finally. Of course it was. I didn't say anything. I just waited. He and Elena, they're struggling. Financially. Emotionally. Everything. I stiffened. And that's my problem because. She ignored the bite in my voice. "He's not asking you for anything. He wants to talk. Just once." I laughed bitterly. He already talked? With his hands. With my wife. Noah. Don't Noah me. I snapped, louder than I meant to. He betrayed me in a way most people don't come back from. Her eyes welled up, and for a second, I saw her falter, not as my mother, but as a woman caught between 2 sons, both broken in different ways. "I'm not excusing what he did," she whispered, "but he's still your brother. And he's paying for it, believe me. He lost his scholarship. He's working nights at a garage to make rent. Elena, she's been in and out of the hospital with anxiety. And Jude, he's asking questions now." That last part landed like a punch to the ribs. I looked away, jaw clenched. I didn't want to hear about Jude. Didn't want to picture his little face asking why Uncle Noah never visited anymore. Didn't want to imagine him being fed some half-truth about how grown-ups fight sometimes. But then she said something that made my blood run cold. "Zane says he needs to tell you something," she said quietly. "Something important. About Elena. About Jude." I turned to her slowly. "What does that mean?" "I don't know," she admitted. He just said it's not something he can say over the phone. I stared at her, trying to decide if this was some desperate ploy, another manipulative twist of the knife. But there was something in her eyes this time. Something unsettled. What did Dad say about all this? I asked. She flinched. He doesn't know, she admitted. I didn't tell him. He'd explode. I rubbed my forehead. Of course she hadn't told him. Our father had practically disowned Zane after the affair came out. The man hadn't spoken his name in nearly a year. In fact, he'd rewritten his will, cutting Zane out entirely. He even made me the executor, with explicit instructions to keep Elena and Jude away from any inheritance. I thought it was too harsh at the time. Now I wasn't so sure. Still, something about my mom's unease kept buzzing in the back of my mind. Something important. About Elena. About Jude. I didn't want to care. I didn't want to hope. But late that night, lying in bed, staring at the ceiling fan spin shadows on the wall, I kept thinking about the timing of Jude's birth. The numbers. The way Elena had started pulling away months before she ever admitted anything. I got up and opened the box in the closet. Inside were old hospital documents, ultrasound photos, Jude's birth certificate. I'd kept it all, relics from a life I used to live. I wasn't even sure why. I looked at the certificate again. Date of birth, October 14th. I counted back. Something didn't add up. The night I confronted Elena, she claimed the affair started in February. But if Jude was born mid-October, he was conceived in January, before the affair supposedly began. I sank onto the floor. Had they lied about everything? The next morning, I called Zane. He answered on the first ring, breathless like he'd been waiting. Noah, he said. Don't talk. I snapped. You said you had something to tell me. I'm listening. There was a pause. Then he said 5 words that knocked the air out of me. Noah, Jude might not be mine. I stared at the wall, heart pounding. What the hell are you talking about? Elena told me a few weeks ago. She said she lied. She said she thought it was mine, but now she's not sure. She's been acting weird. Talking about doing a test. And you waited until now to tell me? I didn't know how. I didn't even want to believe it myself. But Noah, if he's not mine then he's mine. I finished hoarsely. The silence on the other end was deafening. Suddenly, the last year of my life twisted into a question mark. Was Jude ever not my son? Had I walked away from my own flesh and blood? And if Elena had known the truth all along, what game was she playing? The moment I hung up the phone with Zane, 1,000 thoughts collided in my head, each one louder and more confusing than the last. Jude might not be Zane's son. If not Zane's, then who? I knew I had to confront Elena. I couldn't keep living in this shadow of uncertainty. But I also dreaded it. Dreaded seeing the face of the woman who'd broken me, who'd lied for so long. That afternoon, I went to the apartment Elena shared with Zane and Jude. The place smelled faintly of motor oil and baby powder, an odd but fitting combination. She opened the door, surprised to see me. Noah, she said, eyes wary. I need to talk. Now. She hesitated, then stepped aside. Inside, Jude was napping in his crib, his small chest rising and falling in the gentle rhythm of sleep. Elena sat across from me on the couch, fingers twisting a loose thread on her sleeve. I talked to Zane, I began. He told me something. Something about Jude. Her face paled. I don't know how much to tell you, she said softly. I'm scared. Scared of what? She swallowed hard, then finally said the words I'd been dreading. The truth. She looked away, voice trembling. When I found out I was pregnant, I wasn't sure who the father was. My heart stopped. I thought it was Zane. But I wasn't certain. I stared at her, disbelief burning inside me. Not certain? Elena, you knew. I didn't, she whispered. We never talked about it. I was scared to tell anyone. I was ashamed. Why didn't you just tell me? I asked, voice tight. She looked at me, tears spilling down her cheeks. Because you'd hate me. Because I was afraid you'd walk away. I sat back, feeling like the ground had shifted beneath me. Then why now? I asked. Because Zane is desperate. He wants to know the truth. And I want to be honest with you. There was silence between us, heavy with years of secrets. Then I asked the question that had haunted me since the beginning. Who else could it be? She shook her head. I don't know. There was someone else. A man I met at work before Zane and I got involved. Name? I demanded. She hesitated, then spoke. His name is Liam. Liam Harper. I blinked, trying to process the name. I'd heard it before, a colleague of hers, someone she trusted. Have you told him? I asked. No, I haven't seen him in months. I ran a hand through my hair, feeling the weight of it all. If Jude wasn't Zane's, or mine, then Liam Harper might be the father. And suddenly, The neat little life I'd thought I had was unraveling into a chaotic storm. I left Elena's apartment with more questions than answers. That night, I couldn't sleep. I scrolled through my phone, searching for anything about Liam Harper. LinkedIn showed me he worked at a marketing firm across town. Facebook had a few photos, but nothing recent. Something about his online presence felt off. I made a plan. Tomorrow, I'd track down Liam Harper and get the answers I deserved. But as I drifted into a restless sleep, one thought haunted me. What if Jude's paternity wasn't the worst secret Elena had been hiding? The voice echoed through the warehouse like a curse. I whipped my head toward the entrance just in time to see a tall figure stepping inside, silhouette sharp against the dim light. "Who the hell are you?" Liam demanded, standing protectively in front of me. The man's smile was cruel. "Let's just say I'm someone who doesn't like loose ends. And you, Liam, are one." My heart pounded so loudly I thought it might burst. This was no longer just about family secrets or betrayal. This was about danger, about survival. I glanced at Liam. His eyes were hard, cold, but also desperate. He pulled out a phone and dialed quickly. "I'm sending the address." "They're here." Minutes felt like hours. Then the distant wail of sirens pierced the night. The man's smile faded. "We'll finish this another time," he snarled, backing toward the door. But before he could leave, the warehouse doors burst open, flooding the space with flashing red and blue lights. Police swarmed in, weapons drawn. Liam and I were safe, for now. Days later, sitting in a quiet cafe, Liam finally opened up. Elena got involved with some dangerous people, financial fraud, illegal deals. She thought she could control it, but it spiraled out. When she found out about Jude, she tried to cover everything up. I felt a mix of shock and anger. How had I missed all this? "Why didn't you tell me sooner?" I asked. Liam looked down. "Because I was scared. I left town to protect myself, hoping you'd never get dragged into this." I took a deep breath. Well, I'm already in it. Back home, I confronted my parents again. Dad's face was stern but softer than before. "I didn't know the full story," he admitted. "We failed you, Noah, but we want to make it right." Mom nodded, tears in her eyes. "I'm sorry I didn't stand by you sooner. You were always the strong one." It wasn't easy, but I felt the first threads of healing start to weave through the broken fabric of my family. As for David, my brother, the last I heard, he was struggling to rebuild his life, working odd jobs, barely keeping afloat. I realized hate wasn't what I needed anymore. I had to let go of the bitterness if I ever wanted peace. Months passed. Therapy helped me heal, and work kept me busy. I started dating again slowly, cautiously. And Jude, I chose to be the uncle he deserved, distant but supportive on my own terms. In the end, the truth was brutal, the wounds deep. But I emerged stronger, wiser. No longer just the betrayed brother, but a man who faced the darkness, broke the chains of his past, and started building his own future.